Welcome everybody, my name is Peter and today I want to talk to you about the newest patch notes that Blizzard have released for our all-beloved game Hearthstone. First of all, it's always a nice opportunity to actually get some dust going because all the cards that have been changed, at least the expert cards, can be disenchanted for the full value, which is something I would advise everybody to do. So if you have any Blood Imps or Abusive Sergeants or Dark Iron Dwarfs or Defender of Argus, Pyroblasts or Sylvanas even, if you're lucky, or one of these Unleash the Hounds, you might very well use this opportunity to disenchant them and get some other cards. Even if you don't get other cards, or even if you think you might need those later on, it's still a good opportunity to disenchant them and just make them back when you need them, because you're not losing any dust. You can only gain by that. So definitely something to take into consideration. And if you're playing mostly Arena as I am at the moment, you don't need your deck at the moment anyways, and you will get the cards maybe even before when you will need them. So you don't even have to pay the dust back. I, for example, was able to disenchant a golden blood imp and two normal blood imps, my dark iron dwarfs, and some defenders and so on, some unleashed. So very nice. Got me up quite a bit of dust. So I can probably make my first legendary out of my dust sometime soon. I cannot stress this enough. Disenchant your stuff if you can, or if you could imagine not needing these cards in the near future. Some of the cards will be more obvious, like I will talk about this in a little bit. The Blood Imp, for example, which really has been nerfed to death, I would say. Probably this card will not be used in a long time until the next buff. But there are also cards that have been changed and cannot be disenchanted, like the Novice Engineer, which is a neutral card that you got from the start, the basic card. Those cannot be disenchanted generally, so you will have to keep those. But let's get into the changes bit by bit. Let's let's go down the list as Blizzard has posted it. Starting with the Hunter, definitely the class that needed a buff the most. Putting down Unleash the Hounds to 2 is like it's like one big AoE spell that the Hunter has, even though it's not a direct AoE, but pretty much spawning one beast per enemy minion is sort of an AoE. It doesn't work against like taunts and stuff, and you still can't kill stealth stuff like you could with other AoE spells, but still it's good enough. And in all the combination, I think, especially in constructed game, this will be a big change. I don't think it will make the Hunter any better in the arena though. So the Hunter's still going to be like the worst arena class, I would say. But this is a welcome buff, just because Hunter was so weak. Next up, Mage. Pyroblast from 8 to 10. This is definitely a very good thing to do. I still think Pyroblast is strong, but basically what this does, it was basically 11 damage before, because you could do 10 damage and ping for your 1 damage hero ability, which you're not able to do anymore. Or you could even like do some other cheap spells, such as Arcane Missiles or something, which if the board is clear can do like 2 times 3 damage or something like that. So it's definitely a good thing. I don't think it's so important that it comes 2 turns later now. I really think that just doing this extra damage was something that was a bit too much. So that's really appreciated, and I think everybody agrees on that. Even though also I've heard some people say it's not really Pyroblast making the Mage Imba, it's more like the Frost block, the Ice block, and all these freezing spells like Blizzard and so on that make the Mage so Imba, or made the Mage so Imba. So let's see how that works out. And Mage even wasn't the best class, I would say, anymore after the last patch, but Pyroblast definitely was very, let's say, frustrating for enemies of mages. The best class was probably the Warlock in the last patch, so it got a nerf, and it's quite a big one actually. The nerfing the Blood Imp really puts a lot of pressure, kills a lot of decks, especially those cheap decks. Like I was playing one, maybe if you've watched my videos, I had a guide up for a cheap Warlock deck, and this basically goes down the drain with this. So this and one of the other nerfs. I think the Blood Imp is basically useless now, and some people said or well, it might even be better than before because it now gives +1 health each round to random minion. That's true if you get the Blood Imp on first turn every time, but since that's not the case, all these situations where you have like 3 creeps out there already, or 3 minions, and then use the Blood Imp, you get instant +3 health, and now you get only +1 and after the round, so you can't use it, for example, if you want to attack into another minion and you would normally die, but the Blood Imp would save you, you can do that kind of move anymore. So that's also, I think it's too low. Had they done something like maybe give it, I don't know, 2-1 or something, or keep 1-1 and then just nerf the plus health, that might have been fine. But they also took down the one attack, so it's even worse. So it's completely down the drain and totally unusable, I would say, personally. Next up's the Warrior. Warrior was a class that hasn't been played too much, except for very specific decks like the one-turn kill decks, and it's good to see those nerfed, even though I don't know, I found that quite funny, these kinds of decks doing like putting out the charge guy, the Warsong commander, or using the spell, and then play the Molten Giants once you're down to 10 health and buff them up and then let them go at it for like 20 to 30 damage in one turn, which is awesome, but that has been nerfed. But that's okay. I think the logic is the same as with Pyroblast. It's just very frustrating to play against if it happens to you, and it's also a bit lucky. Sometimes you just can't do anything against it, so that's never good. For the neutral creeps, those are the ones actually that have also been. No, that's not neutral. It's expert. To be honest. So some of those are disenchantable. The Abusive Sergeant now is able to give the +2 attack to an enemy as well, instead of only a friendly minion, which is changed, which is good if you have stuff like, if you're a priest and have like Power Word Death or something, you could use that, or if you have the Big Game Hunter and the other guy has like 5 or 6 attack, you can now get them over the 7 attack mark to use the Big Game Hunter to kill it. The Dark Iron Dwarf, so that's basically just a little change. It's marginal, I would say. But the Dark Iron Dwarf has definitely been nerfed a bit, which is good because it was like at the top by far. It basically gave you 10 stat points, very well divided for 4 mana, which is just a bit too much. And giving 2 of those just for 1 round is still good, so it still allows you to remove creeps of the enemy in 1 turn, but only if you like give away your minion anyways, or even if not, but it won't be forever. But you can also put it on the enemy, and you don't have to put it on the enemy forever now. It's also has some upsides, but they are a little more marginal than the downsides, I would say. So overall it's a little nerf, but that's still a very good card. Defender of Argus, also one of the strongest and most picked cards in the last patch, has lost one of the attack points, which most people say is not a big deal, but I think it's really big. 1 stat point on cards like this is really what makes or breaks these cards. And so before that, if you put it in the middle of 2 other cards, the defender basically gave you 10 stat points. So your 3/3 plus the 2 +1/+1s. So it gave you 10 stat points for 4 mana, which was great. Now it gives you basically 9, which is the same as the Yeti, for example, or there's one other card, I forgot. So it's more average, I would say. And splitting those up over different creeps might be helpful, and you have the taunt, of course, so the taunt is still good. But it's not always what you want, really. So it's a bit more situational card, but it's definitely still on top, and it's not as imba anymore, but it's still good. Maybe just not as must-pick-ish as it was before. The next card, that's one nerf to the Novice Engineer, which I think everybody cried out about, and that's definitely a nerf nobody expected, and it's an unnecessary one also in my opinion, because this just makes the card pretty much unplayable for 1/1. I don't think that was a good thing to do. Basically the Loot Hoarder will be played more now, I would say. and North Engineer is almost unusable, but maybe not completely, but let's see how it works out. I think it still does what it most people picked it for. Most people picked it because their deck was too big and they wanted to cycle through it faster, and that you can still do. You pay the 2 mana, you get 2 stats, and you can basically you can still draw a card, which is what most people took it for, and you have some board presence, so you can, like the Warlock can use it with his what's it called, the +4/+4 spell that kills you in the end of the round, or the Paladin can use the Blessing of Might, which also gives +4/+4. So stuff like that can still be done, but especially for the Paladin, it's basically the same thing. You get another card, but you get a 1/1 creature for 2 mana. And Paladins used that, so it's not bad per se, and if you just want to cycle through your deck quicker, it's still an okay card, but it's definitely a nerf that nobody expected. And last but not least, the best card overall, maybe Sylvanas Windrunner, has been nerfed a little bit, got up to 6 mana from 5. I think that's a nerf that also many expected, and I think that's a good nerf as well, so not much to say about that. It hasn't been weakened too much, so it's still up there, but I think I like making slight changes and not going all out there. So if you have a Sylvanas, you might want to try disenchanting it right now, because you can still get it back if you want it later, but you can also try other legendaries if you want to, for that same dust. So that's my analysis of the newest patch. I hope you like this. This is Peter, signing out.